This quick? Oh my gosh. We just want to say hello to everybody. This is the Waiting Game, chapter 35. I think this is our second episode of the 5th season. So we just want to say hello to everybody. And we have to introduce this love. Well, first of all, let's go back. Let's say hello to the people. So let's go with Maggie. Say hello to the people.
Hey, people.
All right. And Tanya, say hello to the people.
Hey, Tanya Tig.
And this is a beautiful couple from back in the day. The connection has arisen. Maggie, who do we have?
We have Brandy and Joe. Brandy goes back to the cathedral days. Y'all know this is a whole big reunion.
Yes, it is.
And you never know who is watching your journey. Because Brandy, I've been watching y'all, and I was like, oh, this is an awesome couple to have on the show. So we have Brandy and Joe on with us tonight. And we would like you guys to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll dive into some questions.
All right. Me first. Brandy.
Oh,
no. Look, Brandy, happily married to Joe. We're just grateful to be here. Thank you, ladies, for allowing us to fellowship with you and vibe with you and share as much of our journey as we can to just help bless other people. So I'm happy to be here.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm Joe, just a boy from Milwaukee, and been married to Brandy for going up on 8 years. We've been together about 11 years. We recently retired, so to slow travel the world, right? And homeschool our kid and world school our kids, I should say. So so just living life. You know, happy to be here.
Yes.
So in all of that, I know I saw Victoria's eyes and Tanya's eyes. Like, I know a little bit of the story because I've been following you, Joe, and Brandy's been, hey, come on, and I've been learning some tidbits. But before we jump into all of that, let's take it back to you said you've been married 8 and together 11. So how did you guys meet?
Ooh, we have 2 different versions of that story. Mine goes a little like this. Loca Luna, birthday weekend.
Oh.
Hanging out, chilling, real relaxed atmosphere, nothing too crazy. Walk by the dance floor, and this guy, attractive guy, but he's like reaching out, and you know how that is. You're like, oh no. So I kind of breeze by him and I say, no, thank you. I have a man, look, single as can be, but I had a man, a imaginary man, right?
Jesus.
Right. So then we find our table. We're sitting at the table and then still chillaxing, hanging with the girls. And this brother, same attractive brother, walks over to the table and turns the chair backwards, like old school side, and kind of just sits down at the table right next to me and is like, what are y'all getting into tonight? And I'm like, oh my God, did you invite yourself to the table and sit down with the chair backwards, like straight, like swagged out? I was like, wow, okay. Still didn't, respond too much. But then as we were leaving Loca Luna, saw him again, and he was still very much nice and still trying to figure out what the move was going to be for the night. And the move went like this, right? And a few days later, if not 1 or 2 days later, he reached out on Facebook, and his approach on Facebook was so kind and gentle and just so different than what I was dealing with at the time that, I said, he seems like a nice guy. I could probably give him my phone number. So that's how it went for me.
Wait, was he a Facebook stalker? Like, how did he reach out on Facebook?
No, not a stalker at all. Just real polite. Actually, the word that comes to mind was he was so professional with the outreach. Like, I wasn't used to that. Normally it was like, hey, Miss Lady, hit me up. His was like, it was very nice to meet you. And I think he even wrote like, sincerely, Joe. It was like a letter. It was beautiful. And I was like, this is different. So let me just see, so thank God.
So he remembered your name and found you on Facebook.
No, she told me her social media.
Okay, all right, okay. Because I want to say, okay, he found you.
So no stalking, nothing like that. But I like it though, Maggie. It keep it spicy, you know what I mean? But no, mine is completely different, right? So I'm hanging out with my homeboys. Our birthdays are 7 days apart, right? So I'm also celebrating my birthday. And so, we're just staying in Local Luna. It was a day party. So it was just live music, so on and so forth. So we're hanging out. I see this young lady at a bar and she just like hugged some dude or whatever the case might be, right? I was like, so maybe she with him or whatever the case might be. So she's walking, but she's walking by herself. So I was like, whatever, right? So I talked to her and she was like stiff arming people, boom, 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 right? And then, so I said hello and she actually stopped, right? And that's when she was saying she had a boyfriend, this and that. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, maybe I'll see you later. You know what I mean? And so actually they sat next to me and my homeboy's table. Right. It was just, when you kind of, that's your home base. And then you may go get you a drink or, go to the dance floor, go hang out and come back. So when I was coming back, I saw that they were seated right next to us. Right. So then, say hello, X, Y, and Z. She was like the ice queen. Right. And I was like, I was unbothered. I'm like, I'm single. I'm enjoying myself. It's like, whatever, so, so we're just talking. And then before we left, I was like, well, you got a social media, whatever, I hit you up. And she was such an ice queen that I was like, I really was like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I was like, all right, well, let me just reach out. Right. And it's interesting how life works, right? Because literally I'm being for real. Like I really was contemplating not even reaching out because I'm like, she didn't give me her number. Like, I ain't got time.
She was so stank.
I was like, I ain't got time for this. You know what I mean? So the funny part is I did reach out. I'm obviously glad I did. And she was completely different too. So I reached out and her response was like, hey, this to the point when we were going back and forth, after a while, I'm like, you do know who this is, right? Like, I mean, so. And then, there's a little bit more to the story, but I just paused there.
Different versions.
And
y'all
It's
are
always
going down in
different.
history. Those are your two versions. It is what it is.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question.
Yep,
Hold on, real quick, Maggie. They're 7 days apart. Okay. So, are you two different signs or the same sign?
Two different signs. I'm a Taurus. He's a Gemini.
Yeah, Gemini.
Got it. Just wanted to know for those who.
What you saying, Victoria? Two signs can't be together.
That's what no, Miss, the lady we had last time, they're on the same birthday. So, I just wanted to know, put that out there for people who believe in that kind of stuff,
Right.
Yes, it is. It can happen. Look.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Maggie.
Oh, no, you're good. So you guys talked on social media. So what was the next step? How did this? Joe seemed really excited that you were super happy. So what transpired?
You know what it was? I was actually dating someone, kind of talking to someone at the time that I met him. And I just remember he and I exchanged phone numbers and we were talking on the phone. And I was traveling at the time with my job. So when I would talk to Joe, like, it was like talking to an old friend. Like, it was so easy. He was so interested in what was going on with my day. Like, not the regular, what do you do? And, all that. He really was, no matter what the topic was, he was very engaged and very much interested. So that in itself was so different. I was like, I want more of that. I guess for the first few months, I never even knew what he did for a living. We didn't talk about any of that. We just talked about what happened at work, what we saw in traffic, sports or anything. And we would stay on the phone for hours. And he and I are very competitive people. And there's always a competition in our house, and to the point to now our children are competitive. So we had this, it was around NBA playoffs during the finals, and we had a bet going on. And we said, because by this time we had talked on the phone for like 2 or 3 months. We had this bet going on. Whoever's team lost that person had to come visit, right? So
the bet was Well, at least what I said was like, yo, we will go anywhere in the world, right?
Okay.
If you win, right?
Mhm.
And then I was like, what are you willing to put up?
Yeah.
Right. And she was like, well, I'll fly you in to come see me.
Yeah.
Right. And so and you got to remember, like, kind of in between that point in time, she was kind of talking to some guy. I'm single, I'm having fun, you know, life is good, right? And but you know, and I wasn't looking, right? But it was one of those situations, like she was saying, looking to be in a relationship, right? And it's one of those things. What she was saying is that, you know, you may find somebody who is cool to hang out with at the club, but then there may be a different somebody that, you know, you want to go to church with, or a different somebody that will go to a sports game, or a different somebody who can talk about serious stuff, and another person can talk about ratchet stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and so what I was finding, and you know, later finding out behind the scenes with her as well, is that it was just, you know, somebody else called, I'm on the phone with her, I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna keep this conversation going because this feels really good. You know what I mean? And so, and the cool thing about our situation that was different than most is all the other stuff wasn't in the way because we weren't in the same city.
Yeah.
Right. So literally, like, most first dates is go to the movie theater or go get something to eat. And if you really synthesize the amount of time that you spend talking, you know, I mean, you're in a 2-hour movie. How much are you really talking? And then you go out to eat, you talk a little bit. But when you're on the phone for an hour or two, there's no dead space. You know, you're not looking at the TV, you know, and talk to each other during commercial break. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking constantly. So we really got to know each other during that time, and we had that bet. And she'll tell you who won.
I lost, y'all. My team lost, but I won at the same time. So he did come, and let me say this. Everybody I knew that I was close to was like, girl, you're gonna fly him out to hang out with you. You're gonna pay for it. And then he's gonna come, and you know it's a possibility.
We all sanctify here. Hold on. We don't know. What are we talking about?
I want to be respectful. But
we understand.
So there was this seed planted of like, if you do that, you know, you could get play, right? Like this, I mean, that's a dream to fly somebody in. And it's just like, you know, hang out for a week and, you know, whatever. And I just remember feeling like this is the right thing to do. I really enjoy his company, just on the phone and the vibe we had. And here's the thing too. Joe only had 2 pictures on his Facebook page at the time. Like, it was, I couldn't remember for the life of me what he looked like, you know, like physically. I knew that I enjoyed him. You know, the conversations were nice, that he had a great attention span. He was very engaged, but I was like, what does he look like? I don't remember. And those 2 pictures didn't give me anything. Okay. I was like, okay, he's attractive, but there, you know, you like angles, you want to see, like, it wasn't there. So when he did come in town, it was really faith. Like, everything was just risk it all. Let's go for it. Let's see how this goes. Wow. And hopefully that we are attracted to each other. We still like each other in person and everything vibes well. And I'll just tell you, we had the best time, best laughs, best, you know, just memories, even to this day, that we bring up. Like, remember when we ran in the rain and from the restaurant to the other? I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful risk that I'm glad I took.
So
yes,
this is such a beautiful story. So beautiful. So let me ask you this: when you met each other, were you like, okay, I have a set of deal breakers? And once you started getting to know each other, because first it was like, I didn't really, you know, whatever, they were just friends, and it became more. So were there any deal breakers? Like, look, if he's this or he's that, or she's this and she's that, I will not talk to her or him. Did you have any?
Yeah.
Yeah, For sure. I think both of us at that time were seasoned in our dating experiences to where we knew there were certain things that just weren't going to fly. But I think for me, mostly it was anything that I experienced or saw growing up in other relationships that I knew just I wouldn't rock with. Those were my deal breakers. There were benchmarks of other relationships that I witnessed that I would say, you know what, if I get in a relationship, I know I can't deal with this, because you know there's going to be 10 other things that you may have to live with, right? Because you're bringing two lives together, right? But unless it was something really catastrophic, I didn't have this unreasonable ask for myself.
Okay.
Yeah, and for me, we both, and we were talking about that. We did our work, right? Like, so we've been through some relationships. We know what worked, what didn't work, what our part was in it, what the other person's part in it. And really, it still falls on that. Everything falls on that one person, right? And what I mean by that is, even if the other person was a horrible individual or, terrible dater or whatever the case might be, you pick them, right? So what in your history caused you to date a person like this and miss the warning signs and things of that nature? So we were really had to come to Jesus with ourselves, like, all right, independently of even knowing each other, like, all right, like, what are we looking for? What is it that we want? And for me, it was a number of things, but I think probably the most important was you didn't have to be perfect, but you had to be truthful. Right. And because sometimes telling the truth isn't always easy, right? It's not always pretty and things of that nature, but I can handle the truth. I'm very resilient, right? I can handle the truth. It's everything else that I can't get with, right? The other thing was for me, right? And this isn't a knock on anybody, it's just me understanding who I am, is that I grew up with a strong father in my household, right? So I'm a strong personality. Right. Therefore, I know from my dating experience that, the girl I wanted to date had to have a father or a strong male figure in her life. Otherwise, it was way too complicated, because I'm dealing with daddy issues, like, my interaction with you, and you're rebelling against me, not because I am who I am, but because there's some deeper rooted thing that hasn't been cleaned up. So for me, it was like, I want someone who, comes from a situation. Obviously, you don't know that, the first time you spoke, but as we're talking, and I'm like, okay, this is cool, because, I understand, she understands, right? What it's like to have a father in the household.
I think we often talk about being honest or truthful with yourself, because I think you hit the nail on the head. You have to know what you can deal with and what you can accept and what you want. Like you said, you had a strong father in the household. I can't deal with somebody that's used to running over a man, or I don't need no man in the household and all this.
Right.
That's very interesting, but it's definitely true.
Yeah. So we knew, and we were just honest. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we didn't have our representative or anything of that nature. And again, I think that would have been exposed right away anyways, because we were lucky enough to have that. Some people would have, their attention would have waned, especially if you're here in Atlanta and the girl is on the road, or or if whatever the case might be, where if you're interested in anything other than really getting to know that person, it wouldn't be worth your time. Like, if you're just looking for a good time, it wouldn't make sense. But if you're like, oh, okay, this is cool, I want more of this and more of this and more of this, and then it naturally, it's like what they always say, which you always look at in the side eye, like, it's when you're not looking, or it's not when you're expecting, you're like, yeah, right. And then boom, there it is. You know what I mean? So it's cool.
Question, sorry, about the long distance. All right. So when you guys met, clearly, he was in Milwaukee. Am I correct with that?
I was in Atlanta.
Oh, you were in Atlanta, but she was on the road.
I'm from Milwaukee. Yeah.
Okay, you're from the Yay Bucks. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay. I said, all right, so you I'm just saying. So then you, if you guys were ever doing long distance or whatever the case may be, were you, okay, when you first met, you both were in Atlanta, right? Because you were
So we met in Atlanta, but
Right.
she was only here to celebrate her birthday with family
Right.
and friends, and then she was going back out on the road, and then
Right.
she stayed back out on the road for like 3-4 months,
4
and
months.
her tour was
Wow.
ending, so she didn't re-up.
Gotcha.
So
Oh, so how did that work? Because I know long distance, I mean, well, we have conversations with ourselves, but even with our sisters, our friends, or whatever, we talk about, well, if he gonna be gone, we got to talk all the time. We have to be, I mean, he has to do something, because, you know, some people say out of sight, out of mind. And that's a dangerous place to be in when you really are connected to someone. So like, how did y'all figure that out when you, Brandy, were on the road? Like, how did you guys stay connected?
Well, prior to meeting Joe, like I affirmed my love life for like a year before I met him. My colleagues would tell you, I would come to work every day, like, I'm gonna meet my husband today. I'm gonna meet my husband today. I'm gonna meet my husband today. So when I met him, I didn't know he was gonna be my husband. Right. But I knew I enjoyed him so much because we were like, Joe and I are like the best of friends first. Like, we're real comfortable with each other. So having that interaction with someone and then adding on to the fact that you're attracted to them and, you know, there's affection there. I had all the motivation in the world to make it work. You know, at the time I was actually my tour life was coming to an end anyway. So I was coming back to Atlanta. So that was one, you know, that worked in our benefit. But the other is I probably would have left the road anyway to make that work. There was just so many good things happening that my life, I would have adjusted to see how, you know, I mean, I had already been single for so long, honey. I knew it was, I knew it was on that side of the coin. So I might as well put my chips over here because I had already, you know, hit brick wall after brick wall. Now I was lonely for quite a bit of, you know, when I was traveling, like, that's why every day I would come to work like, you know what, this will stop. We're getting ready to find not just any kind of guy, the right guy. And then if you need to move around, I wasn't afraid to do that. You know, I was open to moving around. So
yeah, and I don't think we did it. We didn't do any over the top gestures or anything like that to try to, you know, we didn't force it, right? So a couple of things, right? We, you know, like it didn't get to a point where I was like, hey, you got to stop talking to any other guys. And she was like, oh, you got to stop talking to any other girl. Right. But we're not boyfriend and girlfriend, but we talking. Like we didn't do all of that stuff. It was like, yo, we're talking to each other. I wasn't worried about who else she was talking to. If she had a better connection with somebody else, that would have sucked, but it would have happened the way it should have happened, right? Yeah. And I think, you know, she probably felt the same way because it was just a natural gravitational pull where it was like, oh, if I got a free minute at work, I'm like, you know, I'll shoot a text, you know, something nice or thinking about her or whatever the case might be. It was all genuine, right? And and that just kept going, and it didn't feel like it really didn't feel like any extra effort, to be honest with you.
When he left after coming to visit me on the road, I knew, like, after he left, funny story.
I knew you were gonna tell me.
when he was getting ready to fly back to Atlanta, he missed his flight. Like, we were running through the airport. If somebody had a video camera that could have videotaped that entire week, it was definitely TV worthy. But he missed his flight, and I remember just having that extra time with him. I was like, you know what? I could totally see us together. But I waited till he came back to Atlanta, and I asked him if he wanted to be exclusive. So I said, hey, you want to be exclusive? He was like, yeah. And so I was like, well, wait a minute. Do you know what that means? Hold on. That means you make some calls. I'll make some calls. Let's make this thing, you know, official. He was like, yeah. And I actually wasn't afraid to ask or, you know, didn't feel like, man, I don't want to, if I'm coming off like this. It was none of that. It was like full steam ahead. Rejection or not, I'm going to put out there my intention and see what he says. That's right. And we since then been together. We've never broken up. We've been together ever since that conversation. Now, We be fighting, but we make up.
But y'all ain't going
We
nowhere.
still here.
Right, y'all ain't going nowhere. You know what? He
That's
said
right.
something, Brother Joe. You
Yeah.
said something that I said, that's what we're talking about on the show is confidence. You had confidence enough to not care who else was in the picture. I don't have to see who you talking to. I don't have to worry about who's texting you. I don't have to say, oh, who you on the phone with? Who you talking? That's somebody who's not confident. But you were confident enough to say, look, it just is what it is. I know who I am. And the same for you, Brandy. Like you had no fear. Like, boom, I'm confident enough to say, look, this is me. Either you want to be together or you don't. So I really appreciate
it. And I think you're right. And to flip the exact same thing you're saying is that, that's at least for me, and I know some of my friends, insecurity is an unattractive trait, right? So when you're dealing with that, it's tough, right? You're like, whoa, too much too soon kind of deal, right? And so I think by us just having that, confidence that, hey, I'm going to be all of who I am for her to see, because I want her. And, I'll give you like just a quick example of like a learning, right? For me, I learned instead of just telling somebody, that let's say I enjoy sports. So instead of me being like, I'm an Atlanta Hawks fan, what about you? Well, of course it's going to be like, me too, like, versus, hey, you know what? What's your thoughts on this? Or, hey, are you a sports fan? Instead of leading the witness, because then you get the person telling, and then you find out 6 months later, like, I don't really like basketball. I'm just watching it because you're watching it. Or you gonna watch another game on TV? You're like, I think, what I mean? Like, I might if that's cool. So yeah.
Very good. Okay, very good. Did you have any? Okay, so did you have any? Well, Brandy, you mentioned before that your friends was like, well, I don't know about you paying for him to come. And now, did you, Brother Joe, have any kind of like, I don't know, bro, if you should do like, was everybody like, we are supporting? Did you guys just not care and say, I'm gonna do what I want to do?
Yeah, what was your circle saying? I know you said that like, oh, it might be a possibility. That you might need to be a little reserved, or what was your circle of friends saying?
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't speak for all guys. I just know like with my guy group that we don't really talk like that. I mean, like to me, that's a young boy game. When it's like, oh man, you about to have a girlfriend. Ooh, it's like, so for me and my homeboys, it was cool. You know what I mean? Like, and Brandy knows this. You guys will, probably can tell. It does. I'm not swayed by other people's opinion. It's just if I'm happy, I see that it has a potential to work, then I'm gonna try. And I think the main thing though is, it's so many little things, right? Because you talked about like there's certainly deal breakers, but there's little things where you're kind of like, oh, okay, this is refreshing. Like, you'll be surprised, or maybe you won't, because you talk to your homegirls and they're like, so many women I would come across would be like, I've been hurt before.
Right.
And once you hear that so often, you're like, do you understand that men get hurt in relationships too?
That's right.
And y'all are more sensitive than us.
Hello.
I've never heard my homeboys be like, I never heard my homeboys tell girls they meet, I've been hurt before.
That's your homeboys. I'm just saying, it's men out there who's not in your homeboy circle who will let you know by the actions that they've been hurt before. They might not say it, but the way they act towards you, you can see that hurt that they need to get over.
Well, that's you know what, Victoria, and that's what I'm saying. Like in my group, and I believe you. Me and Brandy laugh at some of the stuff we see, right? So I believe you. And whether it's a guy or a girl, I'm just telling from my experience, but I know you all experience it in reverse. No matter if it's a guy or a girl, to me, it's the same, the same feeling, which is, well, I don't want to pay for somebody else's sins.
That's right.
We've all been hurt. You know what I mean? Like either we come into this thing and we're gonna, like Brandy said, like, yo, win or lose, I'm just gonna shoot the ball. Right? I may miss, I may score, you know what I mean? But and what I was gonna say too is the thing that was attractive is that, besides the first night when she put me in the box with everybody else, she never did that again, because again, like for me, lacking discernment is unattractive, right? Like, because if you can't tell the difference between me and some dude who is trying to, run game, like, I'm like, yo, I have nothing but conversation. I don't have one-liners. I don't have, you know what I mean? Like, so if you can't tell the difference, this probably is not gonna work, right? But that lack of, and it all ties together. Like, I've been hurt, therefore I can't bring these walls down for anybody. Right. And it's like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, man.
How many children do you guys have?
2.
We have 2. I have a 5-year-old, and we just had
coming up on 4 months.
4 months. I know.
Yay! Are you guys done?
Yeah, the 4-month-old.
Yep.
Are y'all gonna be done? Or you want,
We're done.
Done.
I was like, yeah, 4-month-old.
We're done. We are done.
I ain't getting much sleep last night, and most times Brandy's not getting much sleep at night. So we love them, but yes, they're beautiful. But we love our sleep. So we'll be.
Yes.
So how did y'all get down the aisle? So we know y'all were great and have been separated since you were dating. But at what point did you know at what point did you know she was the one? And how did y'all make it down that aisle?
I knew Joe was the one when, through experiences with him, watching him with his family, he's a very giving person, very nurturing. He's a leader. So there's so many things I witnessed him do in real time with family and even with myself, that really pointed me in the direction of, this is somebody I can build with. But really what did it for me was, I was like, man, if we fell on hard times and we fell flat on our face and we lost everything, both of us have the innate ability to rebuild. Like, we have such ambitious personalities, like ambitious goals in life, that I was like, oh man, if the worst happened, who would I want to have on my team? It would be him. It's just like if you were on a sports team, you want the best players, to give yourself the best opportunity to win. So for me, when I witnessed him with others and I saw how he was on his job and how he cared about his mother and how he nurtured his pets. I mean, even his pets, all his pets. Never seen anybody love animals the way this man loves animals. So there was so many signs that pointed me in the direction of it. But really it was, if hard times hit, how is he in like stressful situations? How is he in when there's a death in the family, and what is his compassion like for others, and what's his goals? And so once I tapped into that, I knew that whenever he asked, which that was something we talked about, like, is this what you want? Do you want to get married? We're 5 years apart, so I felt like, I'm like, man, I don't want to get all old and shriveled up and you throw me back out there on the market and nobody want me. Don't string me along. But we would have those tough conversations, very open and honest. So I knew, look, we could build something together. So that's
it was simple for me. I think it was just it was so easy. Right. I mean, the first, 2.5 years, then we had like 2 arguments. Right. And they weren't even that big of a deal. Right. More like disagreements. And I was like, man, this is different. You know what I mean? And it's not that we agreed on everything. It's just we knew how to communicate through it and not demonize the other person. And then, again, the very attractive thing to me is not being perfect, but being honest, right? So there were times where Brandy's like, I just got to be honest. And she didn't know how what that was going to look like. And I was like, oh, come give me a hug. Like, this is great. You've been like.
You wanna tell him what I did?
You can tell him.
Okay, so I told Joe one time, I told him the dumbest lie you could think of. Like, it was so stupid. It was just a dumb lie, so dumb that it's really not worth going into detail about, because it triggers something in me that just takes me back. But imagine telling someone a lie. And it wasn't a life or death lie, but it was a dumb lie. And so I knew that I had drug it out way too long. I was like, this is stupid, because if he finds out about this, it's not so much what I did, it's just why would you drag that out? So I got up enough nerve and I went to him and I said, I lied to you about this. And I just knew, like, I could feel this rush of like embarrassment, and I said, I don't know how he's going to respond, but let's just throw it out there. And he actually told me, like, I appreciate you letting me know. I've done that, it's cool, let's move forward. But I also knew, I was relieved, right? I was like, oh, thank you, God, he's understanding. But I also know he would never let me, that's always in his back pocket. You know what I mean? Because I told you we're competitive. So I was like, this one, he's going to he doesn't even have to say it. He just looks at me and I know, like, oh, you have that one little thing. But tough conversations is what saved our relationship. Being open, being honest, having hard conversations, come to Jesus, come to each other and say, I messed up. Let's do this. Let's build, rebuild from here. But that has helped out a lot.
Nice.
I know.
What is some of your relationship change when y'all ended up becoming parents?
I don't think
dynamic change. I mean, because like you said, you get tired, you waking up early, you gotta rebalance everything. You gotta balance work, you gotta balance being parents, you gotta balance, seeing who you're gonna spend time with, family, having time with your friends. If you want to work out, if y'all want to go out as a couple, date nights, like how did that change happen? Like, as you guys, I mean, because you said you have a 5-year-old,
5-year-old and a 4-month-old.
And a 4-month-old.
Yeah.
So how did that change?
Well, Joe and I, thank you for the question. Joe and I have lived a very busy relationship life. Like, we're not, like, our therapist tells us all the time, like, you guys are like not normal, the way you move and the things that you're doing. Because you have to realize everything, which I think is by divine order, right? Because everything since we got together has been moving. We got together, we got in a relationship, we got engaged, we opened businesses, we're moving around, so when you add a child into that, busy life, it just she just came right on in. It wasn't like this huge, like, oh my God, we have this new responsibility. It was added responsibility. I think the biggest hurdle was for us, not so much the child, I was in a place in my growth journey that had come to a stop. Like, I stopped growing during that period. I gave birth, which was a beautiful thing, but I had stopped doing my personal work. There was some wounds that, had come up through I actually experienced postpartum, and I didn't think I was going to experience postpartum. I thought I was okay. But during that period of time, there were so many things that I was internalizing and so many old wounds that had not been healed. And that really put a strain on us, because we kind of lost our that frequency that we were on. It was kind of like, man, why is Brandy struggling with communication and all these different things? And so during that period of time, it wasn't so much the baby that made it challenging. It was Brandy needing to really dig into those old triggers and clean that up. Because remember, we survived off of us both doing our work. And when one stops doing their work and just kind of sitting idle and the other one's moving, it's like a tug of war and we're not moving on the same frequency at that point. So really, in my opinion, and per many hours of therapy, I would assume that he would agree that that was the biggest hurdle when we had our first child.
And how did and I'm just gonna put this out there, how did Joe support you during this time of you working on yourself? Like, if anybody's out there going through that same situation, what, how could a spouse or a partner support somebody in their journey or in their healing? Like, what have you learned? Either Joe can speak on it or you.
Well, I'll speak on it first and then he can speak for himself, but I'll tell you, we as women need to make room for them. They are very much in a pregnancy with us. It's not all about you, and your viewers may disagree, but it is not. They go through the same, in some ways postpartum too, or, sleepless nights with you while you're pregnant, and doctor visits, and the hustle and bustle of getting prepared mentally and emotionally, because their role is different than our role, right? And not only do they have to support the baby, they have to support you and all that comes with us, because we don't know that we're going to get hit with all this stuff inside of our minds and bodies and spirits. Like, it's a whole process, right? So be kind to your spouse, be kind to your partner. Understand that you're not supposed to take up all the oxygen in the room. You're supposed to share that experience with them, because by including him in including his feelings with mine, it made the second pregnancy a lot smoother, right? His feelings mattered just like mine mattered. And I don't see enough articles about that. I don't see enough just keeping them in mind when it comes to what it means for his wife to go from, giving him a lot of attention to now having to care, for the baby, and how that affects them. So they are human. They're not robots. They're not punching bags. They're not the do boy, go get this, go get that. We still keep it spicy. I still keep him top of mind, even though my ankles are swollen and my feet are swollen and everything's swollen and hurting. I still make sure that he had a place on my agenda, and not just ringing the bell and saying, oh, I'm pregnant, so I should be able to beat you up as much as I want to. So that would be my advice. Just be kind to them. They need to know that they're important.
And before Joe answers that question, Jason Sleepy Smith, he was like, wait, is that Barkley, Miss Barkley?
Yes.
He said,
yes,
please
it is.
add us. So he's talking from the male perspective. He said, please add us. Well, just recognize us too. He said, this whole episode is good. Y'all telling truth.
Yes. Amen. All right.
Appreciate it. And no, I think Brandy told a very important truth with that, which I appreciate. It was extremely hard, right? And the reason why is because, like she said, we're friends, right? So normally I'm used to being able to talk to her and being like, yo, like, this is what's happening. She's like, you know what? I see that. And then we like move in the direction, X, Y, and Z, or she talks to me and be like, yo, and I'm like, I see that, B, my bad, right? But I couldn't bring anything to her attention because she didn't know she had postpartum, right? So as I'm trying to bring stuff forward, we're talking about everything other than the issue. I gotta say 90 things that you did correctly before I can even utter one thing that needs to be
build me up before you tear me down.
Correcting, and so that's extremely difficult, right? Like she was saying, and one of the things I'm sure we'll talk about is, you had asked me earlier, how did my friends feel when I got into this relationship? They weren't a problem. If you ask Brandy, how did her friends feel? Majority of them was cool, right? It's how did the family react?
That was coming too, that question was coming.
Yeah, so So when you're talking about having a kid,
Mhm.
it's what is the family expectation of you, right?
Mm.
And how do they think you should raise your kid,
Mm.
right? So
Mhm.
and if you don't do it the way they think you should do it, it's a
Mm-mm.
problem, even though they already had their go at it.
Mhm.
Right.
Right. So I will say, even with as excruciating as it was to deal, because I was dealing with the postpartum alone until she got out of the fall.
Mhm.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to pull her out and she's trying to pull me in. Like, no, you need to, I'm like, yo, B, it's only a few ways. When you're in a storm, you can either go frontward, go forward, or go backward. You can't sit in the storm. You're never going to get out the storm. It's
Right.
like, well, this place feels mighty comfortable to me, so you need to come on in here. I'm like, I'm not interested. Right. So that's that. Even with as excruciating as that was, and it was. I mean, like she said, we hashed a lot out in counseling. It's more so the family, aspect of things, that we don't talk about. We, being us Black folks in our community,
Right.
given, my thing has always been, and I'll let you guys, I know you kind of have the agenda, but you know, I've always had the mindset, and it wasn't taught to me, I just kind of adopted it, is that if whatever the relationship is that we have is that important, then you will treat me as your title. So as an example, oh, well, that's my cousin. So does your cousin get to treat you better or worse because you're cousins? Because in my mind, I think you should treat me better because we're cousins. Not that I should accept less because we're cousins or brothers or mothers or fathers or whatever the case might be. I understand that's very unique, especially in our community, is I don't put a ton of stock into labels, right? It gets us there, but what keeps me in relationship with a person is how they interact with me aside from that.
Mhm.
Big.
Oh, that's good.
You ain't that good?
There's a word.
Yeah. Now, did y'all come to the understanding that y'all needed counseling, or did you finally just say something ain't right, and let me go get some counseling, let me see what's going on? Because I think, Brandy, you were saying you didn't even know that you had that postpartum, had that chemical imbalance, and I think a lot of women don't even know that. It really is like a place that you're in where it's totally different, but it's not like something you can see, if that makes sense, right? Other than that person just changes their habits, or it's just not them.
It's rooted in many, many centuries of oppression. We didn't really have the luxury as Black women to have postpartum. I mean, prepartum, postpartum, everyday partum, everything, every trauma. So there was not this luxury of, identifying it as such and labeling it as such. Now that we have more education and more liberties and more information, we should do better about doing what Joe and I did, which was preventative care. We went to therapy even before there was a problem, because the idea was to have enough in our bank, built up to where we could afford it. It's just like a budget, right? You can't spend emotional capital you don't have, right? So you can't be depleted and then try to withdraw, right? So we spent a lot of time in therapy before, and it really helped us to get to know each other, the structure of who we wanted to be as a couple. Like, we had to kind of create our structure, like, what are our values, what are our deal breakers, what is our communication style, like all those things had to kind of be constructed. And through counseling, it gave you an unbiased architect. And so for us, for me, counseling was really crucial, because I found out I could hear through counseling. I learned to listen. I wasn't a good listener. And I think I'm a pretty easy person to talk to. I mean,
You are.
I think I'm easy. But for some reason in confrontation, I was a horrible listener. Like I would go red, I would see red, black out probably, not knowing that I blacked out. And I'm like this, and I'm not hearing anything beyond that one word that signaled shut down, wait on him to stop talking so that you can just send your grenade across the room. That was me. Like I didn't hear nothing else. I heard beep, 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 and then it's like, womp, 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 wait. Okay, so now let me tell you X, Y, Z. Well, that whole gap of not listening is the crucial. That was him telling how he was feeling. Like that was the most important part. And I missed it because I'm over here still stuck at this period instead of listening. So the counselor she was able to like, literally y'all, like this one particular asked that she asked me to participate in this one practice. And she said, okay, Brandy, repeat to me what you heard Joe say. And I said, what I thought I heard. Okay.
And then I said,
and she goes, that's not what he said. And I swear I could feel fire going up my spine. Like I'm about to shut everybody down in here. I know what I heard. Don't tell me what, I heard. So the point of it is, I was a crummy listener. It's horrible. So if I could give anyone advice, it would be go get counseling. My mentor, who I love dearly, who is an angel on earth, who you all know, Miss Fleming.
Yeah.
She's my mentor. She told me everybody needs a counselor. Everybody needs therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, and especially in our community, we sure enough need therapy.
Yes.
So if you can get that preventative care going, get that emotional bank built up before you even start getting into some heavy duty things, withdrawals, I think you'll have better success.
and if I can, I'd like to piggyback because it is very important, right? So I agree, and then I'll say end. Right, is that we got counseling. Just we talked about it logically. Like, I was like, hey B, I'm thinking about this through the standpoint of we go get our car checked up on a regular basis, oil change, whatever the case might be. We go to the doctor on an annual basis, we go to the dentist on an annual basis. Like, what's the point of going to the doctor on an annual basis when you're healthy? It's to catch something early that could be a real problem later, right? So I was sharing with her and she's like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And we were talking about it. I'm like, let's just go. I mean, we didn't go with any agenda, right? Because we thought like, well, A, we can talk about things before it becomes cancerous, right? And then B, we need to get a person in place that we can actually trust to help us get through a difficult time. You don't want to go find a person when you're in crisis,
Right?
Because we had to go through a number of counselors. But again, people are so quick to quit. Now you won't go to one beautician or one barber,
Right?
And be like, oh man, I can't get my hair cut because he sucked. It's like nah, like you find another barber, right? And so I'm just thinking about the barber experience. I even tried another barber in the same barber shop, like I broke all kind of rules. Look, I had to get to the person who could help me out, right? So but that's why we did it. It just made sense when we started to think about it. And we did have to go through a number of counselors, right? Wow. And we prefer to do business with people who look like us, right?
That's right.
Just so happened the lady who we got with did not look like us, right? But we vetted her to a point where we understood she understood. She was progressive, right?
Good.
I can't sit with somebody, that's a whole nother story, but you at least got to be progressive, right? And so anyway, so that was good because when we did have, crisis, we had already been to her on a regular basis. We already built up some trust. We already, went through 3 or 4 counselors to get to her, right? And so, and the last thing I'll say about that is counseling alone is not good enough. Because like I come from a sales background. So if I wanted to, I can shape a meeting the way that I want the meeting to be.
That's right.
Right. And most people, if you come and you're not clear in your role in something, and you come tell the counselor that everybody is crazy but you, they'll believe you because 1, you're the paying customer, and 2, you've probably structured it where it's like, oh, I can't believe they treat you like that. But you forgot to tell all the mess that you did.
Right.
So you do have to do a level of getting an understanding of who you are, what are the pros and cons to your present being, right? So you can at least bring something forward versus like, here I am, work on me. It's just like going to a mechanic. All right, what's wrong? Oh, well, I'm hearing a little rattling over here. Okay, is it on the passenger side or the driver's side? Like, you help them diagnose. You just don't say, here's my car, figure out if something's wrong.
Right.
Right. So
Facts.
That was so good. You guys, we just sound so adult. Like, I mean, I'm just saying that because Brandy has been so long, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, we're just grown. Like, we're extra grown now.
But look, before we wrap, can I ask, and not my regular question, I want to ask something else. I know it may take us a little over, but y'all mentioned, right? Y'all started dating, you started opening up businesses. How did it work out for y'all to get in business together? And how has it taken y'all in? This might be a little more than a 3-minute answer, but you started working on businesses together, opened them up together, and then now you're retired and you said world schooling your kids. Can you give us just a little bit of your journey in that and maybe some pointers on how it is working with your spouse? Because I know some people could never work together and other people thrive off of it. So just a little bit about that, because I know that's a big part of your story.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, real quick, the entrepreneurship has always been in our DNA, both of us as individuals, and then coming together, that's something we always talked about. Ownership is freedom for our community. That's just the only way to freedom. You can't work your way to freedom on a job.
I'll tell you, if I can, because I know we're doing it quickly too, so we'll kind of banter back and forth, is that the reason why she says that is because I just did a seminar on the equity pay gap, right? And Black women on average get paid 40% less than their white male counterparts, right? And oftentimes they don't even know it because they're just comparing themselves to their coworkers, right? And versus in the industry as a whole. So what Brandy and I knew is if you own real estate, someone's not going to pay you 40% less rent because you're a Black woman. They're not going to pay, 40% less for a value meal because you're a Black woman who owns the business, right? So just to give you context in terms of why we think in terms, that's the ultimate path to freedom.
Yeah, and the job I had before we purchased our first business prove that. I was due a promotion and was passed over. Oh, Brandy, you're great, you're the biggest draw to our department, we're doing it, you're doing this, doing that, but yet we're going to promote someone else from the outside, not even inside. So
and you get the privilege of helping teaching them everything
training everything So with that, we just knew that entrepreneurship and businesses was the ticket. Now, how do we work together? We respect each other. We trust each other. I have a role, he has a role. And then we have a role together. The businesses, our franchise has been my baby, and the interesting thing about that is that when it succeeds, it's my baby, and when it fails, it's my baby, right? And he doesn't step in on trying to control anything, and vice versa. We understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we push each other. So from a business standpoint, it's been great. You know, we've been equal partners in that. We just don't step on each other's toes, right? And we're honest and we're open the same way we are in our marriage and our friendship and in parenthood. It's all the same. It's consistent. You can't show up at work one way and then be different at home and then be different. You know, that it just confuses things. We're just consistent all the way through. And then retirement has always been this one right here. I probably wouldn't be in the mental space of even thinking it was a possibility to be retired at 37 and 40 without his vision. So I have to credit the FIRE movement, which means financial independence, retire early, to him. Like, you know, since we've been together, we've been planting that seed, and to see it actually come to grow and God really bless it has been just a journey in itself. So yes, we get to, I'm currently homeschooling. We're currently homeschooling, running a business, had a new baby, sold our home, going to live abroad starting next month. We are packing up our backpack, kids, rolling across the world. And that has all been from the seeds we planted many, many years ago. So.
That's a great way to end.
And I want Joe to plug his Facebook page and let you guys know that Joe, just a little bit about your background and what you currently do, because you are educating and imparting knowledge into your community for free, not wanting it. And I applaud that. So I want you to definitely plug where people can follow you, how they can get plugged in. So please.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So facebook.com/Joe Knows Money. And Joe Knows Money on pretty much all the social media. And yeah, you know, really quickly is that, you know, I spent 20 years in the industry, right? I'm a certified financial planner, and you know, in 2020 decided, you know what, it'd be nice to retire, slow travel the world. But money and financial literacy has always been my passion. So that's not a job, and it's not something, you know, for me to get paid off of. And, you know, be perfectly honest, I'll be sitting at home and I'll be talking to the TV with Brandy. I'm like, that ain't right. I mean, how this person claims to be a financial expert, but they're more so a journalist. They read about the stuff, but they've never been a practitioner. That's like a person who reads about surgery versus someone who has experience doing the surgery. You can learn a lot from reading about it, but who do you want to, you know, actually perform the procedure? So for me, I decided, versus just being on the sidelines, I had to get in the game to give somebody or give people an alternative, to hear a voice that's not just trying to funnel you to something else, right? You know, I'll give you this, but I'm going to sell you that on the back end. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And, you know, I think that's the whole point of financial independence is not, for me, it's never been about the money. It's been about the freedom, right? To be able to now say, hey, I can tell it like it is. You know, here's what you should be doing when it comes to working with a financial planner. You probably shouldn't be. Oh my gosh, why is that, right? And we're talking about that. Here are the fees that, you know, they're charging you, and here's how crazy it's gonna impact you. You know, here's, you know, just laying it out. In the series I recently did was the butt naked truth, right? Because no one's going to give you the butt naked truth if they're trying to maintain your business, right? So just to give you a quick example, if you meet with a financial planner about investments, and real estate is really the best thing for you to do at that moment in your journey, unless they can make money off of it, they're not going to guide you to real estate. If you go meet with a mortgage broker and you really meeting with a financial advisor, right? They're not going to redirect you unless they can make money off of that transaction. Right. So for me, I just wanted to be that voice of saying, no, here's somebody who know what they're talking about, been, you know, featured in publications and journals and things of that nature. More so, that's important for our community. Quick funny note is that I was doing it for 10 years, but as soon as I got into on CNN and Kiplinger's magazine and all this stuff started rolling. It's like, oh, you know what you're talking about. I didn't know what I was talking about, right? So I throw that out there for other people benefit. But yeah, so Joe Knows Money, and just stay tuned. You know, I'm going to do more stuff like that where we're talking about, like we have a series we just did called More Money, More Lattes. Whereas you all might have heard, like, if you're looking to save money for retirement, stop drinking that Starbucks latte, right? Or bring a brown bag, lunch to work. And I have a completely different philosophy from the industry, which is, guess what? If you paid a woman, all women are underpaid on average, but Black women in particular, right? If you paid Black women 40% more for the, equal pay for equal work, and guess what? She could afford a latte, she could afford to eat out with her friends, and she could afford her retirement contribution. So instead of blaming the victim, right? And in that course, we were teaching how you could, squeeze as much as you can out of your job, but also we were talking about what policies, from a governmental standpoint, or what companies can do in order to make sure that you don't stay underpaid in your position. Right. So anyway, so that's my mission now, is to take my experience, give back to the public. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, we appreciate you ladies, and just know that, I pray that this platform continues to grow for you all, and that your bond is long. I witnessed, just to the viewers, these girls have been bad to the bone for a long time. They're real friends, real sisters. This is a real genuine connection. I'm just grateful to be a part of it, and grateful that we're able to share our story, in hopes that it inspires people to get married and be good to each other, and have friendships that are meaningful and relationships that are meaningful. And, like Joe's saying, we are activists now. As retirees, we're out here trying to really inspire our community to do better, be better, live better, grow, that you too, even right now, 10 years from now, could be retired. And it's not a gimmick or like some lottery, Hail Mary. It's more so just discipline, focus, and investing in knowledge.
Because we not only do we have a wealth gap in our community, we have an information gap. Right? So you can go online right now and Google about life insurance, and you'll come back as confused as ever. Right. You can Google about investments. You're like, which one should I do? So really having a voice to really, cut through it all in order to share is what we're trying to do.
Every couple that comes on, we're just like, whoa, every single couple, we're just blessed. Because I'm telling you, it just happens out of nowhere. Maggie was like, oh, we gotta ask Brandy. But Brandy had a baby, and she's like, well, she's having a baby, so she can't come on right now. But I'm just grateful that you guys were able to come and share the knowledge, because you guys said so many great things, and you guys are young, you know what I mean? And you're retired. That's a big deal. How old are both of you? Just so that the world can know.
I'm 42.
37, about to be 38.
Boom. Okay. So that means it can happen for you. And Brandy, not even knowing, she gave us a word at the end about, just, you got to stay prayerful. You got to stay prayerful for your spouse. Like that's just what you have to do. Like she said, she's going out and manifesting, and manifestation is the word for this year anyway. For me, it's for my friends. We've discussed it, so it's out there for you guys.
We have to see it.
If I can add, Victoria, there was something recently that I read, where it's like, you are where you are because of who you are. So if you are not happy with where you are, check with who you are. That's usually the starting point. Go back to clean up some things there, and you will attract something new. So if you want a starting point, usually you're like, I don't like this job. Well, you picked the job, you applied there. They didn't come over here and drag you over there. So you got to check in with yourself. So yes,
that's the word that
is true.
Hello, right there. Self check-in.
Yes.
So we just thank you guys for doing this show. I'm Victoria L. And then of course we have the Wilsons, Brandy and Joe. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know a lot about you, Joe. I just know about Brandy. And so now I'm just like, oh, like he says all these crazy pointers and all these things. And actually to me, he spoke a lot to the men. We love when men come on and can speak a great word to the men. Because women, it ain't no problem for us to speak.
Yes.
So we're grateful that you give that support to Brandy. Both of you guys, we're just so grateful for you guys coming on. Hello, Tanya. She says goodbye. Maggie says goodbye. The Wilsons say goodbye. You know where we are next time. We'll be there next week to have the next show. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week/weekend. Don't forget to invest in yourself. Oh, wait, before we leave, what does FIRE represent? Can you say that one more time, Brandy? Because it spoke to me.
Financial independence, retire early.
Say it again.
Financial independence, retire early. And the retire early part is optional. You want to achieve financial independence so that you can walk away from any situation, anytime that you want to.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
You
Joe
can do
knows
it.
money.
You can do it. Go team.
Joe
Go.
knows money.
Yeah.
Joe knows money. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank y'all. You have a great
Thank you.
evening and we love you guys. You know what to do. Follow the page, follow the show, share the show, all the good stuff. Have a great evening.
All
Bye.
right.